Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for coming to our webinar, Chrome on Apple, Deployed and Managed with Jamf. Thank you so much for your time today, and we're excited that you're able to join us. This webinar will be emailed out to all the registrants, whether you were able to make it or not. So this will show up in your inbox for review. And again, thank you for joining us for a Jamf webinar. My name is Sam Weiss, and I'm a Solution Partner Manager at Jamf, and I work very closely with third-party organizations that build products that exist within the Jamf and the Apple ecosystem. And I'm joined by our good friend from the Google Chrome for Enterprise team, Alex Bauer.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Bauer. I am a Chrome Enterprise Customer Engineer. I work with various enterprise customers and help from any sort of technical implementation. I do demos of any of our products and solutions, and I work with our engineering teams to kind of help out from any sort of feature requests and bug debugging or anything like that.
Awesome, and thanks for joining us. For those of you that were at JNUC 2020, Alex had a session there on Chrome deployment, and we're excited to take that story further today. Our agenda is a really great one, especially for organizations that are using Chrome today. If you're looking for easier ways to deploy and manage Chrome, you're going to get a lot out of this webinar. So we're going to talk about Chrome and what it is. It's more than just a browser, and we're going to talk about the components that make it a scalable enterprise way for your employees and students to access the internet. We're going to talk about Jamf's capabilities with Google Chrome, being the experts in ecosystem management. What can we do to make your Chrome deployment experience even easier? And Alex is going to talk us through Chrome deployment best practices and configuration options that will ultimately provide you with an easy way to not just get software out, but make sure that Chrome is up to date and is managed to the preferences for your organization. So it's going to be a really great conversation. We do have the chat open, so please drop your questions in there, and we'll both answer them throughout the time of the webinar, as well as at the Q&A section at the end. So in 2021, what is a browser to users of Apple devices? Our devices have access to apps and smart assistants, which are one way to access information for consumers. But the browser is still the primary method of online interaction for enterprises, as well as broader laptop users across businesses and consumers. And just like hardware, the browser of choice for individuals comes very much down to personal preference. When you get your new computer, what's the very first thing that you do? It's either use the built-in browser or go get the one that you prefer. It's everyone's first action on a new computer, which tells us that there's a lot of user preference that drives browser choice. But from an organizational perspective and for enterprise IT, these organizations generally do their best to support this browser choice for users, or they find a browser that's best suited to their corporate needs. And there's so many factors that go into this decision. Things to consider are compatibility with the tools that your employees use, security, extension availability for critical tools that integrate with your browsers, as well as the management options for that browser. Fortunately, browsers across the board are getting more powerful, and they offer increased options for end users and administrators.
Chrome is a browser made available by Google for desktop and mobile devices with over 2 billion users worldwide. As more and more workers and students are spending their time on devices and primarily in the browser, Chrome is becoming increasingly important in getting work done. Chrome is used by enterprises and education organizations worldwide to connect users with online resources. While Chrome is that user-facing portal to the internet, it's also part of a set of tools and services offered by Google that allows organizations to provide users with a business-class experience. Productivity and security tools, part of the G Suite and Google Workspace solutions, make this Google-based virtual infrastructure possible. A lot of this is powered or delivered through technology that makes up Google Chrome.
As the leader in Apple Enterprise Management, Jamf has years of experience helping organizations succeed by integrating existing infrastructure with the Apple hardware and software that users love. Jamf has been doing this forever, and more recently with a profound focus on cloud-first solutions. Organizations of all sizes and with all types of existing tools turn to Jamf to deploy and manage Apple devices. And in other webinars, we discuss this in broader terms. But for now, let's focus on how Jamf Pro and Google Chrome work together. The Google Chrome for Enterprise team has had a focus on admin simplicity and management of their applications leveraging the Jamf ecosystem. And today we're going to talk about all the different enterprise considerations that they've built into Chrome. And we're going to talk about the installer package type and how it's been made for enterprise deployment. We're going to talk about update methods for Google Chrome to ensure that your users always have the most up-to-date version of that software. And we're also going to talk about different ways to handle settings management for Google Chrome. And this enables privacy policies and other considerations around extension workflows that we're going to dive into that demonstrate that Google Chrome is an extremely enterprise-friendly browser, especially when it's being managed through functions of Jamf Pro.
So the first thing we're going to talk about today is Chrome deployment. We've worked very closely with the folks at Jamf and have taken a lot of their feedback into consideration when it comes to our product offering and improvements to that. The first thing that we've done is the release of a PKG file. This PKG file allows administrators to skip the need of using Jamf Composer and now just download the file, upload it directly to the Jamf admin console, and then set up the devices that are set to receive this application. This also ensures that all the packages or components that Chrome requires to work correctly and also keep itself up to date are deployed in the correct locations, and then Chrome will always work correct as expected on all of your managed devices. The next thing that we've done as part of this feedback that we've gotten from Jamf was the release of a universal binary that was actually available on day 0 when Apple released their ARM MacBooks. And this allows administrators to just deploy a single file on all of their MacBooks in their environment and not have to worry about whether this binary is configured for an Intel-based machine or an ARM-based machine. The installer automatically sets up and deploys the correct binaries for the platform in which it's installed. Additionally, we also now offer Chrome as a download through a static URL. So any administrators that want to automate the way the package is downloaded from the Google website and deployed through Jamf can now directly call out on that static URL and import the package directly into Jamf and deploy it. Additionally, we also offer universal PKG files for beta channels, and we do also offer the DMGs for any sort of administrators that do want to deploy Chrome through Jamf through a more legacy approach by using Composer and so forth. Our preferred deployment solution will definitely be the universal PKG on the stable channel.
Let's take a look at how easy it is to download and deploy Google Chrome across your entire fleet using the Google Chrome PKG that has all the enhancements that Alex just talked about. The first step is going to the official Google Chrome for Enterprise page and downloading your PKG of choice. The next step is to upload the Google Chrome package into Jamf Pro. There are several menus to do this from. I'm doing it from the Packages Computer Management Configuration window. After uploading your Google Chrome package, you're going to need to create a computer policy to install it. Go ahead and click Create New, give it a display name, and this is where you're going to be able to choose your installation triggers, just like any other policy within Jamf. After you've decided, you'll add your package payload, and additionally, you can decide whether you'd like to offer this piece of software through self-service in addition to automatic installation. For administrators or organizations that need to test the beta versions of Google Chrome, the software now supports side-by-side installation, meaning that you can have both the stable channel installed on a device as well as the beta channel without conflict.
So we talked with Sam about distributing the browser to your machines in your enterprise. The next thing that you're going to want to focus on is configuring the browser to work the way you would want it to work for your users. The way you would do that is through Chrome policies. Chrome policies are a set of various controls that you can configure onto the browser that either change behavior, allow you to enforce various security protocols, as well as deploy various extensions to your users that allow them to have a richer experience in their browser. Additionally, you can also set up various configuration controls that would allow you to enforce compatibility for any sort of applications that don't work correctly with your browser in the out-of-box experience. So there's multiple ways of configuring that browser through Jamf. The legacy way of doing that is through managed preferences that I'm sure most of you guys are already familiar with, and how to push managed preferences through Jamf. And then our new solution is something that we call the Chrome Browser Cloud Management Console. And that allows you to set up various policies and enterprise extension controls and security controls that the browser gets automatically from a cloud solution, and you don't have to hard code all of these settings in the Jamf console. If you follow the link at the bottom of the slide, you can learn more about policies in Chrome and the way the policy order is configured and so forth. So, Chrome policies. There's over 800 unique software controls in the browser. Some of these apply for Windows machines, some of these apply for Mac machines, some of these apply for our Chrome OS devices. There's literally dozens and dozens of various controls that offer different type of functionality into the browser. Some of the more useful policies that administrators like to push onto their browsers are homepage, Google Sync behavior, cookie and history retention, corporate bookmarks that you would want to enforce that every employee or every user has access to, maybe disabling incognito mode, configuring Chrome update behavior and pinning it maybe to a certain version, configuring proxy to ensure that all of your users have access to the correct enterprise resources, blocking pop-ups, and so forth. Dozens and dozens and dozens of controls that allow you to tailor the browser to your unique experience. So today we're not going to talk about how you would manage the browser through managed preferences, as that is our legacy approach, and we're going to focus a lot more onto the Chrome Browser Cloud Management solution, as that is Google's modern browser management approach. This solution allows you to manage Chrome across all platforms, including macOS, Windows, and Linux. iOS and iPadOS is coming out in the next few weeks, and Android will be coming out sometime by the end of the year. This solution allows you to push policies, bookmarks, extensions, update behavior, and many other configuration policies on the browser from a centralized location that all of the browsers communicate through, regardless of what network they're on, either your corporate network or a public internet at a Starbucks or anything like that. That also ensures that you have a much faster deployment of those policies, as you don't have to wait for things such as like Active Directory sync to happen on your Windows devices. The way the Google approaches management of policies is the lowest priority would be the Google Identity profile. If your enterprise uses Google Identity to sign into the browser, that is the least precedent for policies. The next thing you have is Chrome Browser Cloud Management policies, and then the highest priority is MDM policies. We do offer a control for you to flip that precedence between CBCM and MDM, but always the Google Identity will be the least priority. Additionally, the console allows you to get a reporting of the configuration and the extensions that your users are deployed or are using on their machines. As part of that work that we've done together with Jamf, we've made it very easy for your administrators to enroll the browsers in Chrome Browser Cloud Management through a very simple profile deployment that Jamf currently offers. So we've briefly talked about distributing the browser, we've briefly talked about managing the browser or configuring the browser, and now we can talk a little bit about updating the browser, right? The importance of keeping the browser up to date varies from various approaches, right? Maybe you want to keep the browser up to date to make sure that various security updates are applied to the browser. Maybe you want to keep the browser up to date to make sure that some new features that we released in the browser are available for your users as soon as they're released. However, sometimes you might find the need to delay that update of the browser to ensure that your applications continue working correctly and test that new version of the browser before you release it to the masses. To do that, we offer various controls, either through our cloud management solution, or if needed, you can use Jamf custom settings through a package that is available as part of the Jamf repository that allows you to configure the update behavior of the browser. The update mechanism for Google Chrome on macOS is Google Keystone, and that applies the latest version of the browser, and it also supports the application of various update policies on itself. Google releases Chrome every 6 weeks currently. However, as we announced recently, that release cycle will change sometime in the third quarter of the year, where we will release Chrome every 4 weeks, and we will also offer an enterprise or extended stable channel, which would allow you to update Chrome every 6 weeks, or every 8 weeks, I apologize. You can follow the support article on the bottom of the slide to learn more about update controls and update strategies for the browser in your enterprise. All right, so we talked about all the ways you would want to distribute and manage the browser and update control the updates and so forth. Let's give you a quick overview and tour of the Chrome Browser Cloud Management solution, as well as how you would be deploying the enrollment token for those browsers through Jamf Pro. So this is the Google Workspace Admin Console. You don't have to have any sort of Google Workspace licenses to use this solution. Because we're managing Chromebooks in this admin console, it just made sense to kind of keep everything together, so we added all the functionality in here. In this console, you have something called the Devices section. In the Devices section, you have where you'd be managing the Chrome OS devices under the Chrome Devices section, as well as your Manage Browsers, where you would be managing all of the Windows, Mac, Linux, as well as mobile devices. So if we go in the Manage Browsers section, you can see in here that we have lots and lots of devices that are checking in. Some of these devices are either Windows devices, some of them are Mac devices, and some Linux devices. The way this works is you build an organizational structure on the left that applies to your use case. You can either do it by geo, you can do it by actual use case, or you can do a combination of things. Or if you really wanted to, you could match your Active Directory structure using one of our tools that we offer a way for you to import that structure. So once you build an organizational structure that works for you, you choose one of these organizational units in which you want to bucket the devices or drop the devices for management. So for this use case, let's pick the Mac devices OU. Once you choose the OU on the left, you click on the bottom yellow button, and this generates an enrollment token. This now is the only thing you need to push onto your devices through Jamf or through GPO on a Windows machine or through any other NPM solution. And once you push that onto your machines and the browser restarts, the browser becomes managed by our console, and then all of the policies apply from here. So I'm going to show you in a little bit on how to push this configuration through Jamf, but let's kind of just talk a little bit more about the solution itself. So as you can see, this token is a pretty long string. If I choose on a different OU, for example, the dev OU, and I click the yellow button, it's a different enrollment token. So these tokens are unique for the organizational unit, but they are the same for each machine that falls in place in this bucket. So let's click on one of the devices to get more details about it. Also, keep in mind that you can search and filter the devices you see in the list based on various options, such as machine name, organizational unit, and so forth. So let's click on one of the Mac devices to get more details about it. So we have this MacBook Pro device in here. You can see that it applies to the user called Yiran. You can see that it was first seen in our console in 2020. In here, you can see that we capture the profiles that are associated with this browser installation. We do not capture anything that's private to the user. Privacy is #1 for us, and we don't touch anything like that, such as browser history, cookies, cache, autofill data, none of that. The only thing that we capture is if the user is actually using a Google identity to sync on the profile, because maybe you want to understand if they're using a personal Google identity or a corporate Google identity if you are using Google identity as part of your identity management in your enterprise. Something we've built in here is that's going to be available in the very near future, is currently through our beta testing, is the concept of remote commands. One of the use cases for this would be, think from a help desk perspective. The first avenue of defense, right, or first approach of defense, when a user calls for a scenario where they cannot access a certain website or it doesn't work correctly, the help desk agent will probably recommend that the user clears the browser data. Instead of working with the user over the phone on clicking through the menu on how to do all of that, you have the option now to clear that data remotely. So you select the profile that the user is using, click the 3 dots, and then select clear cache and cookies, or clear just cookies themselves. And once you've done that, instantly that data for that profile is deleted on that browser. Additionally, we capture any extensions that are deployed in the browser and which profile they're deployed in as well. You can see in here, we capture the status of the extension, whether it's enabled or disabled, whether the extension is out of date, whether the extension is installed by the user. In here, you would also tell if the user, if the administrator has pushed the extension, as well as if the user has sideloaded it. We also report in here whether the extension is installed under the stable installation of Chrome, or if you have multiple installations of Chrome, if it's installed in the other one, that's reported in here as well, and under which profile that extension is deployed in. So because we support the concept of multiple profiles, you can see in here that some extensions apply to a secondary profile. If for some reason you don't trust an extension, or you want to deactivate it for users because it might not necessarily be a corporate type of extension, you can select the extension and click the three dots menu on the right and choose to block the extension, and that would cause the extension to be blocked at the specific OU that you choose. Any extensions that are installed are blocked from running, and any new installation attempts are blocked from installing. Additionally, we capture the machine policies that are deployed in the browser. These policies could be cloud machine policies coming from our console, as well as local machine policies if they're pushed through a GPO or managed preferences on a Mac. Additionally, you can also tell the status of the policy, whether it's applied correctly, as well as the value that is applied with that policy. Up until now, when you applied managed preferences on the browser, you had no way of knowing what's actually enforced. And this capability gives you that peace of mind of knowing that whatever is configured on the browser is exactly what you want. What you want to be configured. Next thing we capture are the plugins, as well as any custom fields that you can configure manually in the console. Additionally, you can move a browser between OUs, which would allow you to either change it for a reporting perspective or from a configuration perspective. So next thing I want to talk about is if we click on the Chrome menu, these are all the Chrome-related URLs that apply for Chrome management. In here we have the Manage Browser section, the enrollment tokens, the user and browser settings, apps and extensions, apps and extension usage report, as well as version report. Some of the other ones apply for Chrome OS, so we're not going to go through them. The Manage Browser section is really the list of all the browsers that you have enrolled in your enterprise, and we've kind of covered that previously. The next thing is the enrollment tokens. The enrollment tokens is literally just a list of all the tokens that have been configured for your organizational units. You can also tell whether an enrollment token has been revoked and by whom that was done and when that was done. Next is the user and browser settings, and this is where you'd be configuring all those policies that we talked about previously that you want to enforce on the browser. All kinds of things such as sign-in behavior, such as disabling incognito mode, such as applying proxy configuration, site isolation settings, password manager, lots and lots and lots of settings. All of these settings are filterable, so you can filter based on either a text or a category. And all of these settings are applied through the concept of inheritance. So whatever you configure at the top organizational unit gets inherited on the lower organizational unit. So if I click on the dev OU in here, you can see that everything that's actually configured in the console shows as inherited from global organization. And for example, password manager shows as locally applied, which means that the dev OU is overriding the functionality of the password manager only for those dev devices, and everything else gets inherited. We've talked a little bit about managing update controls for the browser, so let's just look for those controls really quick. And you can see in here we have the category that applies to Chrome updates. In here you can control Chrome updates, for example, pinning the browser to a certain version. So if you want to pin the browser to version 89, that means that all of the browsers managed at the specific OU will stay on version 89. Additionally, if a user installs a newer version of the browser, such as 90, you have the capability to set up the rollback function. And so as soon as the browser launches and it detects that it's running version 90, they'll automatically roll back to 89 and enforce that enterprise standard that you want to keep. You can also, for example, use the capability of relaunch notification, which would notify the user that the browser has updated, and for a certain time period, let's say 4 hours, it would pop up every so often a notification for the user to encourage them to restart the browser. If for some reason you want to be a little more encouraging with your users to restart the browser, you can force relaunch. So if the users don't restart the browser to apply the new version after a certain time period, they'll get a pop-up that will block the users from using the browser until they restart the browser automatically. The next thing we want to talk about in here is extension management. We have multiple ways of managing the extensions on the browser. And the first thing that we want to talk about is managing extensions by permissions. So if you go to the very top of this policy list, as you can see, it's a very extensive list of configurations that you can apply. We have the link that takes you to application settings page. In here, you can configure settings for your extensions based on permissions. So instead of blocking extensions based on the name, which we already know that it's a losing battle because extensions come out in the market daily, you can block extensions based on what they do in the browser. So for example, you have an extension that wants to issue certificates. You have an extension that wants to set up a proxy, act as a VPN provider, and maybe access your video capture device like your webcam. As soon as you press the button to save the settings, all of the extensions that use that type of permission or that type of functionality will be blocked from running or blocked from installing. And additionally, you can also deactivate types of extensions such as themes. Maybe you don't consider themes as being an enterprise-friendly type of an extension that, maybe they break the enterprise image that you want to portray for your devices, so you can just quickly deactivate those and then press save. So once you've managed, let's say, extensions by permissions, maybe you want to allow certain extensions even though they are blocked through the permission management in here. So we have the absent extension menu. In here, as you can see, we have a list of extensions that maybe they're allowed to install. You can choose to force install, which means that every user in that specific OU get that extension, or you can also choose to block an extension, which means that if a user tries to install it, they'll be blocked from installing it. Once again, the concept of inheritance applies in the console in this section as well. So you can individually override configurations for an extension at each OU. Additionally, you can self-host extensions in this console, and you can also add new extensions from the Chrome Web Store by just clicking on the yellow button on the bottom right and then selecting the extensions that you want to search. So let's see if Jamf has something like that. Well, maybe you can choose the CR Excavator extension, and you can select this, and now it's added to your list. And you can also configure in here individual permissions if you want to allow the extension to just only partially work in your environment. So once you've done this, another way that we can allow you to manage the extensions is through the concept of extension workflows. This is something that we're currently working on, and it should be coming out in the very near future. This allows you to block all installations of extensions other than what's configured in this extension list. And for your users that want to install new extensions that have not been approved, when they go to the Chrome Web Store, they will see a request button. And when they click that, that request will show up in your request section in the console in here. You'll also get a notification as well. When you choose the extension that you want to approve and approve it and apply it at a certain organizational unit, the users that have requested the extension will get a pop-up back on their browser that will notify them that the extension is approved for installation, and they'll be able to go and get it from the Chrome Web Store. Additionally, if you choose to approve it and also force install it, that extension will just show up automatically on all the managed browsers in that specific OU. The last things I want to cover are the application and extension usage report. This allows you to get a full inventory of all the extensions in your managed browsers. This allows you to see, for example, what extensions your users have installed, whether they're siloed or normally installed from the Chrome Web Store, or whether they're admin pushed. You can quickly tell, for example, what permissions an extension is using, and you can also get a quick link to the Chrome Web Store to get more details about the extension. Additionally, on the bottom, you can see in here that we can find out which devices have that extension installed. So for example, you have an extension that you go through this list and you don't necessarily trust it. You think that this extension is not quite enterprise friendly. So for example, the Studio Ghibli HDMI wallpaper extension, you can click on the three-dot menu on the right and choose to block this extension. Once again, select the OU at which you want to block it, choose block, and that extension will be automatically blocked from installing or blocked from running if it's currently installed on any browser. The last thing I want to show you is the version report. The version report allows you to get a full breakdown of every single version of the browser in your managed browsers list. So for example, you can quickly identify any browsers that are out of date. Let's say this browser in here, you can see that it's on version 81. You can quickly identify what's the machine name and the user that runs this, and then you can get in touch with the user to get that machine up to date. Or maybe you can check the update controls for that machine to make sure that you're not pinning that browser to a certain version. Last thing I want to show you is how you would be deploying this token through Jamf. We've worked very closely with our friends at Jamf, and they've built a very simple workflow that allows you to deploy the enrollment token with just a couple of clicks. So if you go into Jamf Pro and click on Configuration Profiles under the Computer section, click on New. In here, you scroll down towards the middle and select Application and Custom Settings. Select the External Application section, and in here you add a new payload. Choose the source as as a repository, and then from the application domain, you choose Google Chrome. Choose the version of this policy. Currently, there's only one version and one variant. And then you'll see very quickly there's a section added that talks about Chrome Browser Cloud Management enrollment token. Paste the enrollment token in here, save the profile, and assign the scope of this profile to whatever devices you manage. And as soon as the profile deploys and the browser restarts, those browsers are going to be enrolled in our admin console, and all of the configurations and extension controls that we've talked about previously will apply to those browsers. So that concludes our walkthrough and demo of the Chrome Browser Cloud Management solution, as well as the integration or the easy deployment of the token through Jamf Pro.
Moving away from macOS, it's also easy to enroll mobile Chrome browsers on iOS or iPadOS into Chrome Browser Cloud Management. I'm going to show you how to do that, and we're going to be leveraging app config within Jamf Pro to do so. And we're again going to start within the Google Admin Console. In this section, we're able to create new enrollment tokens, and when we click the plus button, the Admin Console presents us with an enrollment token. Let's go ahead and copy this string, and we're going to save it for later. And when we refer to Google Chrome's documentation on how to enroll a mobile browser into Chrome Browser Cloud Management, you can see that we just replace this string with the enrollment token that we were previously provided. We're going to take this whole thing and we're going to move it into the app config section of Jamf Pro alongside the Google Chrome app. As soon as Google Chrome is launched after receiving this app config, that browser is then considered managed, which means it will report within the Google Admin Console, and there are Google Chrome policies available on iOS. Today, those are going to be things like managed bookmarks, but in the future you can expect to see additional capabilities brought to the mobile platforms as well.
So we talked about deploying the browser, we talked about managing the browser, we talked about update controls. We're just really quickly going to talk about setting policies via the configuration profile or manage preferences. Just to remind the administrators or the users of the legacy way of configuring the browser, that is done through the Jamf's custom setting payload. And some of the settings that you'll be configuring through here would be like homepage, sync behavior, once again, cookie and history retention, and so forth. Same things that we've talked in the past for the cloud management console. We've made it easy for you to have access to a list of all the available policies, and you can see that download link on the very bottom. And you can take that JSON and import it in the Jamf custom settings payload, and then choose the configuration payload or settings that you want to deploy onto your browser. This is definitely not as user-friendly as using the the Cloud Console. So this is not the approach we would recommend to our administrators, but for compatibility's sake, we still want to support all admins that want to use this functionality.
One of the last topics we want to discuss today is BeyondCorp Enterprise Conditional Access, which is one of Google's security frameworks that incorporates data from endpoint tools like Jamf. The reason this is a good environment to discuss this is because BeyondCorp Enterprise Conditional Access relies on some technologies that have Chrome at the center. Part of these workflows require extension management and being able to push settings to devices. So for any organization that's interested in exploring conditional access with Google via BeyondCorp, it makes sense to investigate enterprise extension workflows first to make sure that you're capable of pushing out the applications and the software that are required to make this a complete solution. You can expect more information from Jamf on BeyondCorp Enterprise Conditional Access Availability later this year. We've covered a lot of material today specific on benefiting administrators and end users through Google Chrome deployment and management services. And while the intersections between Google and Jamf are vast, you can find out about all of our integrations at jamf.com/solutions/integrations/Google. For more information specifically on Google Chrome deployment and management best practices, make sure to check out our Google Chrome deployment paper that will also be included in the follow-up email and is currently posted on jamf.com's resource section.